Hello everyone, welcome to Chetan Bharat Learning. So guys, from today onwards, we are going to start with economy for your general studies preparation. As you guys all know by now, that for your UPSC examination for IAS, IPS, IRS and all the other posts, for your UPSC examination, general studies, in short GS, is a very important component for your prelims as well as mains. Right? Within this GS component, there are various subjects. So in a sense, GS, general studies, can be divided into various other components. Polity is one of them, geography is one of them, environment is one of them, science and technology is one of them, history is one of them. And among all these subjects that are included in general studies component is an important component called economy. Questions are asked regularly and in a high number, both in prelims as well as in mains. As far as your mains is concerned, economy related questions are asked in your GS3 paper. Alright, so economy is a very important component. Plus, to understand newspapers and various economy related articles in newspaper, you need to have a brief knowledge of various concepts with respect to economy. Right? So from today onwards, we are going to start with economy component. Now, many of you guys might be knowing this already, that we have already covered economy in a bilingual format. By bilingual, I mean in Hindi plus English, Hinglish format. Right? So we have already completed 30 lectures in bilingual format for economy. Many of you might have watched those lectures and many of you might have cleared your concepts with respect to economy, and I hope that those of you who have watched those lectures are now very well versed with economic concepts and are pretty confident with respect to economy as far as their UPSC preparation is concerned. Now we have that out of the way. We have come up with another course for economy, but this is for those people who are uncomfortable with Hindi language, those who want to those who want to study for UPSC entirely in English. I have come up, or we at CBL have come up with economy entirely in English for your UPSC preparation. So all these lectures that we are going to start with would be entirely in English. There would be no Hindi whatsoever, apart from all the famous popular phrases that we generally use. Otherwise, we will be covering this entire economy lecture series in English. So those of you who haven't covered in Hindi or English and want to study in English are free to join and are welcome to start with this course. Alright, now before starting with the lecture, let's take a look at how we shall cover this economy component for our general studies. Alright, so we'll start with economy, GS economy lecture series. Alright, so let's begin. How should we tackle economy? Basically, as far as your syllabus for UPSC is concerned with respect to economy, you can divide economy in three parts. Alright, three major parts. So economy syllabus for UPSC can be divided in three major parts. One being basics of macroeconomics. Now this is the most important component of your economy preparation, because in this we shall cover all the basic components, all the basic concepts that will be important for understanding the other component of your syllabus, Indian economy. This component, I would advise you all that you need to pay attention while I'm taking this component. All right. While I'll be taking lectures with respect to macroeconomics, I want your full attention. I want your 100%, because if you don't understand this portion properly, you would never get confident in economy. As far as economy is concerned, you would never feel that your economy component is complete. This portion, macroeconomics basics, is actually crucial for your understanding of economy, because in this portion we'll cover concepts like GDP. We'll cover concepts like inflation, like CPI, WPI. We'll cover concepts like repo rate, reverse repo rate. We'll cover banking sector. We'll cover fiscal policy. We'll cover RBI, Reserve Bank of India. All these important components, all these important concepts which are crucial for the understanding of economy would be covered in these lectures alone. All right. And we shall cover macroeconomics in the beginning only. Alright, first we'll start with one class will be based on microeconomics. This is another component. Then we'll start with macroeconomics, and I'm telling you again and again, and I will be repeating that in the lectures also. Lectures with respect to macroeconomics would be crucial for your economy component. This is the most important component of your as far as syllabus for economy is concerned. Alright, so first lecture would be basics of microeconomics. From tomorrow onwards, we'll start with basics of microeconomics, and in that, we'll complete this component, microeconomics, In lecture number 1 would be basics for microeconomics, and we'll complete that component in one lecture alone. All the other information with respect to microeconomics, you need not know about that. Whatever we shall cover in microeconomics in that one lecture, that is enough for you for your UPSC preparation. UPSC is not that sentimental about microeconomics. They are sentimental and emotional about macroeconomics, but they won't worry much about, or they don't ask many questions about microeconomics. But still, why are we studying microeconomics? Because microeconomics again gives you the idea of economy in general, gives you the idea of demand, supply, law of demand, all these other concepts which are crucial for understanding macroeconomics would be covered in the first lecture of microeconomics. You might encounter many other concepts of microeconomics, but you need not know that. I'm repeating that again and again. All right. After lecture number 1 for microeconomics, we'll jump to macroeconomics. And again, I'm saying this, that shall be crucial for your UPSC preparation. So while we are covering macroeconomics, please give me your 100%. And if you ever encounter a doubt, please ask me instantly. All right. No matter how silly your doubt is, please ask that doubt. If you're asking silly doubts, if you're asking silly questions, that means you are actually thinking about economy in your mind. All right. That would give me a signal that you are studying economy. So I'm sure that you'll be having doubts. I'm sure about that, right? If you'll be asking those doubts, you'll have more clarity with respect to economy. All right. Again, if you don't ask doubts and if you keep on lingering those doubts, then you'll end up in a precarious situation, which none of us want. All right. So therefore, while we are covering this component, never miss a class, never miss the continuity of the class. Give me your 100%, ask me your doubts. All right. Once we are done with this portion, then we'll jump on to the Indian economy component. Within this component, you'll be studying about various sectors of Indian economy, various facts about Indian economy. For example, we'll be studying agriculture, we'll be studying industry, we'll be studying services, we'll be studying many other things about Indian economy in particular. So basics of macroeconomics would cover concepts about economy in general. Indian economy would be focusing on Indian economy in particular. All right, clear? Makes sense? So now that we know that Indian economy or economy syllabus for UPSC can be subdivided into 3 parts: basics, macroeconomics basics, and Indian economy. Now we shall see that what shall be our chronology in covering these concepts, how we shall go forward, which subject or which component we'll do first, then which second, and which third. All right. So our chronology would be lecture number 1 would be focused on microeconomics. This is again a crucial component. Yes, macroeconomics is crucial, but lecture number 1 is also very crucial because certain simple concepts about economy. What is economy? What is demand? What is supply? How demand and supply influence prices? All of these things would be covered in this. There are various concepts, like you must have heard about economy of scale. You must have heard about opportunity cost. UPSC once asked a question on opportunity cost, right? All these concepts shall be covered in this first lecture only. After lecture number 1, we'll be done with microeconomics. Then we'll jump on to macroeconomics. And in this, we'll start with what is GDP. We'll start with what is inflation. We'll talk about monetary policy, of which RBI is a crucial component. We'll be talking about government budgeting. We'll be talking about government's external sector. We'll be talking about government's foreign exchange reserves. We'll be talking about many other things. All right. We'll be talking about banking sector also, financial markets in this. Okay, so please give me your 100% in this portion. Once we are done with lecture number 1, from lecture number 2 to round about lecture number 14 or 15, we'll be covering macroeconomics. And once we are done with macroeconomics, then we'll jump on to, again, a crucial component, but not as crucial as this. I'm repeating again. If you're done with this, then this would be a cakewalk for you. Indian economy is not that difficult if you know macroeconomics. Once you're done with macroeconomics, then you'll be capable enough to understand Indian economy even on your own. All right. So this is again very important. But in mains, UPSC mains, questions are asked from this section as well. A lot of questions are asked from agriculture, this section. So this section is also important. But for understanding this section, you need to know this and this. All right. Hence our chronology: micro, then macro, and then Indian economy. All right. Now let's take a look at what shall we cover in microeconomics, what shall we cover in macroeconomics, and what shall we cover in Indian economy. All right. So basics of microeconomics, this entire portion will be covered in one lecture only. What shall we cover? will be completed in one lecture. This will include certain basic concepts about economy. For example, what is law of demand? What is market equilibrium? What does Adam Smith mean by invisible hand? You have heard this term. You know about Adam Smith, right? Adam Smith, the father of economy, he used this term invisible hand. What does this invisible hand mean? What is opportunity cost? What is economy of scale? We'll cover all these basic concepts that are important for understanding economy in general. All right. Then we'll come on to different types of goods. What are Veblen goods? What are Giffen goods? What are complementary and substitute goods? What are many other goods? All right. What are luxury goods? All these classification of goods is an important component of microeconomics. We'll be covering that. Then we'll start with elasticity of demand. Whether a product is price elastic, whether a product is price inelastic, what is elasticity of demand? We'll do this. Then we'll jump to basic introduction to production function. What are factors of production? For example, you have heard this. What are factors of production? Land, labor, capital, entrepreneur are 4 factors of production. So what are these factors of production? How you earn income over these factors of production, we'll cover this. This is again very important. Then we'll talk about total cost, average cost, marginal product. Then we'll talk about law of diminishing marginal product plus law of variable proportion. Then we'll understand the concept of cost. In this, we'll cover opportunity cost, average cost, marginal cost, fixed cost, variable cost, all these things. And in the end, we'll cover market structure. You must have heard these terms that the market for this particular product is in perfect competition. So what is perfect competition? What is monopolistic competition? What is oligopoly? If you're reading newspapers regularly, then you must have heard this phrase that telecom market has become an oligopoly or duopoly of sorts. Why duopoly? Because there are 2 major players in the market, Jio and Airtel, right? So the telecom market has become a duopoly. So what is duopoly? What is oligopoly? What is monopoly in a market structure? We'll talk about all these things, and after that we'll be done with our basics of microeconomics in first lecture only. All right. Then we'll jump on to macroeconomics, and in this this portion of economy would be covered in various lectures. All right. So number 1, when we'll start with macroeconomics, that is lecture number 2, we'll start with national income accounting. Now, in national income accounting, you'll be understanding the concepts of GDP, GNP. All right. What is GDP? What is GNP? What is GDP at basic prices? What is GDP at market prices? All right. We'll be covering all these things. Then we'll jump on to inflation. What is inflation? What is stagflation? How is inflation important for interest rates, market rate of interest? What is real inflation rate, nominal, and all these things we'll be covering in inflation topic. We'll be also talking about various measures of inflation. For example, what is CPI, consumer price index? What is WPI, wholesale price index? And what is this third new category that government every day talks about, producer price index? We'll be covering all of that in inflation topic. Then we'll jump on to money and monetary policy. This is again a very important topic because in this we'll cover RBI. But we'll start with what is money actually? What is the concept of money? Money. What is money? We'll be starting this topic with this fundamental question, and then we'll jump on to RBI, role of RBI, functions of RBI. And after RBI, we'll be jumping to banking sector. We'll take a couple of classes for banking sector, all right? We'll understand everything about banking sector, the current crisis in banking sector, what are NBFCs, all these things would be covered in this. Then we'll jump on to fiscal policy. Now, there are 2 policies to influence economy in a country. One is monetary policy, that is the domain of RBI, and the other is fiscal policy, that is the domain of Government of India. So what is fiscal policy? What is government budgeting? How does government influences the economy through government budgets every year? We'll be doing all of that in this. And then we'll jump on to the last topic of macroeconomics, that is external sector. What is balance of payment? How does RBI influences our forex reserve? How do exchange rates vary? Why is $1 is equal to 70 rupees and why is rupee depreciating? Why is rupee appreciating? All these questions shall be answered in this. All right. So macroeconomics can be, or we would divide macroeconomics in 6 topics. All right. These are 6 topics, and we'll be taking good enough lectures to cover all these 6 topics. All right. Make sense? Clear? Now let's see what shall we be covering in Indian economy. Then we'll jump on to Indian economy and we'll start with Indian agriculture. We'll talk about everything about Indian agriculture. By the way, this is a very big component. A lot of questions in your mains examination are asked from Indian agriculture. So this is a very big component. That is why we'll be taking more than 2 lectures for this. Round about 3 lectures will be taken for Indian agriculture because it's a very big component. All right. After agriculture, we'll be covering industrial sector and services sector. Then we'll jump to infrastructure sector. Roads, bridges, telecom, electricity, all these are part of our infrastructure. And as you'll be understanding, we'll cover this and you'll understand that infrastructure sector is crucial for any economy. All economies, the difference between developed and developing countries is that in developed countries, infrastructure is top notch, and in developing countries, infrastructure lags behind a lot, right? Therefore, we'll be spending some time with infrastructure, and we'll cover everything about infrastructure. All right, we'll be talking about PPP also, public-private partnership models and all that stuff, that exciting stuff. All right, so we'll cover infrastructure sector, then we'll jump on to employment-related issues. What is employment? What is unemployment? What is labor force participation rate? What is gig economy? All these things would be covered in this. Then we'll cover financial markets. Financial markets, for example, money market, capital market, share market, debenture market, bond market. All these important terms we'll be covering in this. Then we'll be covering international organizations. We need to know about World Bank. We need to know about IMF. We need to know about WTO. All these things, all these organizations and other important intergovernmental or world level organizations, international organizations shall be covered in this. Then we'll cover poverty and inclusive growth, concept of poverty, what is poverty line, who are churning poor, who are transient poor, everything related to poverty. And the concept of inclusive growth shall be covered in this lecture. And in the end, in brief, we'll talk about other miscellaneous components like economic growth and development, concepts related to that. All right. With that, we'll be covering the entire section of Indian economy. All right. So now you know in brief what we shall be covering in microeconomics, what we shall be covering in macroeconomics, and what we shall be covering in Indian economy. Now, for preparing economy for your UPSC preparation, you need to be mindful of few other things. And among those other things is sources. What sort of sources you shall follow? So we'll take a look at that. What sort of sources we shall follow for making you for allowing you to prepare better for your UPSC preparation. All right, for your UPSC examination. All right. What sort of sources we shall follow, and what sort of sources I would advise you guys to follow. All right. Now, as we all know that economy for UPSC is a dynamic subject. It's not a static component, it's a dynamic subject. It's a dynamic component. It's different from history because history is a static component. There are no current affairs in history, right? But when it comes to economy, current affairs form a very big portion of your economy. There will be a lot of questions that will be asked from current affairs in your prelims as well as in mains when it comes to economy, right? That is why economy is current affairs oriented subject, current affairs oriented component. And that is why we don't call it a static component, we call it a dynamic component. Therefore, for preparing economy properly, for preparing economy optimally for your UPSC examination, you need to have a keen eye over the current events that are going on with respect to economy. Now, what sort of sources you shall cover for current affairs and what sort of sources we shall cover for current affairs? First of all, we'll be covering newspapers like the Hindu and Indian Express. All right. Then we shall be covering a monthly magazine from Government of India called Yojana. We'll be covering that. We'll be covering budget. And a very crucial document that comes from Government of India that is very crucial for your UPSC preparation is Economic Survey. Now here it's written 2019-20, but if you're giving the exam next year, then 2020-21 economy current affairs, economic survey would be important for you. All these 4 things are a part of your current affairs. Now, if you are watching our current affairs videos regularly, because you see we have a current affairs plus test series course as well, where every Monday we cover weekly current affairs with respect to economy. So I would advise you all, because you guys who are watching our GS economy lecture series would be enrolled in our current affairs course as well. So while you are watching these lectures, these economy lectures, please never miss a current affair lecture for economy. Every Monday every Monday there is a video on in which we cover all the economy current affairs, weekly economy current affairs, right? So therefore, while you are watching these lectures, while you are going through the notes that we are going to provide you, please never ever miss your Mondays. Please never miss our current affairs video on Monday, because on Mondays we cover economy related weekly current affairs. And as I've mentioned this before, economy is a dynamic subject. Current affairs are very crucial, extremely crucial for your UPSC preparation. All right. So along with these lectures, please never miss our current affairs lectures as well. Even when you're done with these lectures, then also never miss our current affairs lectures, because current affairs would go on till your examination. So even when you're done with these lectures, we shall be covering this in 25 lectures, these economy lecture series. Never stop watching our current affairs lectures. All right. So our current affairs would encompass all these 4 things. There will be separate classes for budget next year, the budget that would come, and there will be separate classes for economic survey as well, that would also come on 1st of February 2021. We'll be covering budget and economic survey in separate classes. But our current affairs video that comes every Monday would cover these newspapers plus other newspapers as well. For example, sometimes if I feel that Economic Times has published a very good article, then I would cover that in our current affairs. So our current affairs video is not confined to Hindu and Indian Express only. We take a look at each and every important newspaper, and if we find anything important in those newspapers, then we cover it in our Monday video. All right. So for your preparation, these are the sources that you're going to follow when it comes to current affairs. All right. Now, when it comes to the static portion of economy, what I would advise you guys to follow. Number 1, NCRTs. Now, which NCRTs? You see, as I've mentioned this before, we can divide our syllabus for UPSC economy in 3 components: microeconomics, macroeconomics, Indian economy. So there is a book for each of these components, right? There's an NCRT for each of these components. For example, if you want to cover microeconomics, then in 12th standard, NCRT, it's called Basics of Microeconomics. Then in 12th standard only, there is this another book, Introductory Macroeconomics. And there is another book that they actually give to 11th standard students, that is Indian Economic Development. Now, I wouldn't want you guys to purchase microeconomic book. I don't want you guys to purchase this book. I don't want you guys to study this. Whatever questions that UPSC shall ask from microeconomics shall be covered in our lecture only. And whatever information with respect to microeconomics that is important for your preparation would be given to you in our lecture 1 PDF only. You shall follow only our notes and no other sources for microeconomics. So you don't need to purchase this book or download this book. This book is forbidden as far as we are concerned. All right. But the 2 books that I would want you guys to study from are 12th standard Introductory Macroeconomics. All right. Though we will be covering macroeconomics in detail, the notes that we are going to provide you shall be sufficient. All right. But still, I would want that while covering macroeconomics, you also have a look at NCRT, 12th Macroeconomics, Introductory Macroeconomic NCRT. All right. So you shall buy this. And there is this another book called Indian Economic Development, NCRT again, that covers Indian economy. So when we will be starting with Indian economy, you shall start studying from this book. All right. So for your UPSC preparation, you need to buy these 2 books. That's it. And the PDF files that we are going to provide you, the notes that we are going to provide you shall be sufficient for your UPSC preparation. Now, I don't stop anyone. That's my record so far. I don't stop anyone from buying any other book. If you have time to study other material, other sources for economy, be my guest. I don't stop that. I don't discourage that. But the thing is that it's not just economy that UPSC shall be asking questions from. It's not just economy. UPSC shall be asking questions from other subjects as well. Now, every subject has to be given certain amount of time. You can't study economy forever, because if you do that, then you'll be compromising your polity, you'll be compromising your history, you'll be compromising your geography and other components for UPSC, right? Therefore, you need to actually confine your sources to a certain degree. All right. So if you want to prepare properly for your UPSC, our notes and these NCRTs shall be sufficient. You need not know more than that. All right. Our notes for static portion, our notes for budget, our notes for economic survey. If you'll cover our current affairs properly, if you'll cover our budget series properly, if you'll cover our economic survey properly, and if you'll cover the notes that we are going to provide you properly, you don't need any other book. All right. If you want, there are many books in the market that are doing rounds in the market with respect to economy. You can buy, you can study, but again, I am warning you, you'll be compromising your other subjects as well. Therefore, just focus on our notes. That'd be my advice. Just focus on our notes. Just focus on our economic survey videos. Just focus on our budget videos. Just focus on our current affair videos, and just focus on our GS Economy lecture series lectures. And if you want to read extra material, then please focus on these NCRTs. That's it. That would be all. Nothing more. All right. Make sure, if you have time, if you can spare time, then you can buy Ramesh Singh. Then you can buy any other book, Ramesh Singh, or many Mishra and Puri. Many other books are there in the market. You can buy any one of them. But let me tell you, only one. After you cover all these sources that I have mentioned, because these sources are crucial. If you are done with these sources and then you spare some time, and then if you can spare some time, then go for those books. Please don't substitute those books over them, over these sources. All right? Makes sense? Clear? So that would be your strategy, or that would be your sources that you shall refer from. All right. Now let's take a look at our lecture plan. All right. How we shall proceed. All right. That will be the last part of this video. I won't take much of your time. So economy lecture plan. First topic that we shall cover in one lecture only, that would be basics of microeconomics. All right. We have discussed what we shall cover in microeconomics. Then we'll be starting with macroeconomics, and the first topic that we shall cover in macroeconomics would be national income accounting. Now, what we shall cover in national income accounting, we shall cover GDP, GNP, what is green GDP, what is economic inequality, what are drivers of economic growth. All these important components we'll be covering in national income accounting, and this particular topic might take 2 lectures. All right. Then after that, we'll be studying inflation. Within inflation, there are plethora of concepts, many concepts that we shall be covering. All right. Then we'll jump on to, because inflation is important for understanding the functions of RBI. Because after all, if you are watching our current affairs videos for economy properly, then you might know by now that RBI's main function, or Monetary Policy Committee's main function, is inflation targeting. Therefore, you need to understand what inflation is to understand what money is, what monetary policy is, and how does RBI influences the supply of money in our country. All right. For that, you need to know monetary policy and RBI. Clear? After completing that, then we'll jump on to the second most important function of RBI, that is regulation of banks. And therefore, for that, we need to understand the banking sector. We'll be covering this sector in detail. We might take 2 or 3 lectures even on banking sector. After covering banking sector, we'll jump to fiscal policy, role of government in economy. How does government influence economy? How does government influence aggregate demand in economy? How does government influence investment levels in economy? We shall be covering in fiscal policy. Then we'll be jumping on to taxation system of India. What are direct taxes? What are indirect taxes? What is GST? How is GST crucial? How is GST important? GST in detail. We'll be covering all of that in taxation system. And then we'll be jumping to external sector. By the way, after your money and monetary policy, we'll be conducting a 25 question MCQ test number 1. So that you are up to date with what we have covered by then, what we would have covered by then. All right. So that you are up to date, so that you are practicing MCQs as well. So there shall be periodic tests as well. After every week, we shall be conducting a test of 25 questions. So after your money and monetary policy, there shall be test number 1. After banking, fiscal and taxation system, there shall be test number 2. Then we shall be covering external sector. And this sector, this particular component is also bulky, is also lengthy. So we might take more than one lecture. Then we'll be starting till external sector. You'll be done with your macroeconomics portion, and then we'll be starting with Indian economy. So what we'll be starting with, how shall we start Indian economy? We shall start with Indian agriculture. Again, like I've mentioned this before, it's a lengthy and bulky topic. I shouldn't say might. I think I'm certain that it shall take 3 lectures to cover this component. It's a big component. After agriculture, when we'll cover each and every aspect of Indian agriculture for your UPSC preparation, we'll be starting with industry, Indian service. Then there shall be test number 3. Then we'll be starting with employment, infrastructure, financial markets, international organization, poverty and inclusive growth, test number 4. And then in the end, we'll be covering miscellaneous topics, various miscellaneous topics with respect to economic growth and development. All right. Now let me tell you, all these topics shall be covered in 25 lectures. That is because we don't have classes on Saturdays and Sundays. So you'll be taking around, I guess I'll take around 5 weeks to cover this. All right. So 25 lectures. Within these 25 lectures, we shall be covering the important static portion of economy, which shall enable you to understand current affairs and which shall enable you to understand economic survey, budget, and all the other things with respect to economy. All right. So we'll be completing all these topics that I have just mentioned in 25 lectures. Now the detailed lecture plan, what shall we be covering in lecture number 1? What shall we be covering in lecture number 2? What shall we be covering in lecture number 3, 4? The detailed lecture plan shall be provided to you guys in the next lecture itself. All right, makes sense? So yeah, welcome aboard. Welcome to our GS Economy lecture series. I hope you'll have a nice ride while covering this GS Economy lectures. I hope many of your doubts with respect to economy shall be cleared. And let me tell you, if you give me your 100%, if you pay close attention, if you watch each and every lecture properly and in a dedicated fashion, then let me tell you, there might be many who are not interested in economy. There might be many of you who hate economy. There are some who like economy, but there are many who hate economy. Let me tell you, if you'll give me your 100%, by the end of this 25th lecture, by the end of these lectures, you'll start to fall in love with economy. I am assuring you that. But for that, you need to give me your 100%. Be as dedicated as possible. All right. Again, I'm promising you, those of you who are on the fence as far as economy is concerned, those of you who don't like economy at all, who are studying economy just to crack your UPSC, let me tell you, you'll fall in love with this subject. This is a beautiful subject. Everything you'll understand about this subject. Well, and it's a very good subject, you know. There's this famous slogan, modifying the communist slogan. The power lies behind the buoyancy of your economy. Everything is run by economy. What they say? The whole thing is that, re bhaiya, sabse bada rupaiya, right? Economy is behind everything. Once you'll understand this, once you'll fall in love with economy, you'll understand everything in this world, whether it's international relations, whether it's politics, everything has an underlying structure of economy. Right? So you'll start to fall in love with it. But again, the condition is you have to give me your 100%. All right. So welcome aboard, guys. Let's start with lecture number 1, basics of microeconomics. But we shall do that tomorrow. Thank you.